In today's video, I'm going to be going over Russel Orhi's deadlift guide, and then I'm going to be throwing in a bit more tidbits of information so that by the end of this video, you're going to be more able to successfully deadlift and hopefully hit a new PR. So if you're ready, let's get into it.
Generally, one of the things that you want to keep in mind is that everyone's body is going to be a little bit different. So yes, you could take bits and pieces of what I'm saying and apply it to your physique, and then as you're training, figure out.
So yes, the first important thing that he's saying right here is that everyone's body is different. Some people are made for conventional, some are made for sumo. Some like to have a bit of backgrounding, some like to keep their back completely straight. Some people need to bend forwards a little bit more. Some people like to not bend over as much. Some people do this and some people do that. And so everybody's deadlift form is going to be slightly different, and the reason for that is because we all have different leverages and we all have different bodies.
Alright, before we actually talk about the technique of doing the deadlift, I want to show you guys the equipment that I use for deadlift. I know a lot of people on the internet like to use straps.
So deadlifting with straps is fine, but if you're a hook grip puller, which I know I am and many of you guys are also hook grip pullers, then we have to use straps in training, because if we don't, we're going to tear our thumbs and we won't be able to pull anything with hook grip in a while. But with mixed grip, you can pretty much pull mixed grip as much as you want without straps and you're completely fine. As a matter of fact, it's probably a good idea because then you probably won't fail on grip in competition.
So equipment that I want to go over that I use is a flat soled shoe.
So when you're buying a deadlift shoe, you will pretty much want to get the thing with the tiniest sole ever. I see a lot of people using the no-bill shoes when they deadlift, and that's a horrible deadlifting shoe because they have a big sole. So my first deadlifting shoes, I actually pulled my first ever national record in these boys right here. Got them for $20 at Walmart, and if you look inside, I took out the soles so that I'm even closer to the ground. You want to be as close to the ground as possible. My current deadlift shoes are these. These are custom made. And it's like, you see how thin this material is right here? That is how thin the material is at the very sole, and then plus they have some rubber here. And so I'm pretty much deadlifting barefoot. You're not allowed to deadlift barefoot in competition, but if we were allowed, then I would be deadlifting barefoot, because when you're barefoot, you have you're close to the ground, you have grip and all that good stuff.
On each side. You know what's so crazy? People actually don't even know what this thing is. This is a deadlift jack.
Deadlift jacks are honestly so awesome, and they're one of the main reasons you should get a powerlifting membership, because when you're deadlifting multiples of hundreds of pounds, it is a pain to unload all of that every single time. At a commercial gym, if I go deadlifting, I hate unracking that stuff so much. But a deadlift jack just makes it so easy because I can just lift up all the weights at once and then just take them off. It's super easy. If you're at a commercial gym though, you can take a 2.5 pound plate and put it under one of the plates, and then you can slide off all the other ones, and that makes it a little bit easier.
This video is going to be super short just because deadlift is it's easy to explain, but it's something that you guys are going to have to be practicing over and over again to make sure you get the form down and the technique that you're going to be utilizing for your particular body size.
I wouldn't say that it's easy to explain. You can find multiple hour-plus long videos explaining very minute details of deadlifts. So it's not that it's super easy to explain, but it can be very dumbed down as it is in this video. But one of the best ways to practice deadlift form is by doing pause deadlifts. That's my favorite way to practice deadlift form, and also block pulls are a great way. And like you said, by doing a lot of repetition and over time, you're going to learn your deadlift form for your body, and just overall your deadlift efficiency and deadlift form is going to improve as well.
Stance a little bit closer. What you guys want to do to establish that good foot stance is you're going to probably stand about shoulder width apart.
For him, it might be shoulder width apart. For you, it might be feet literally touching together. Unlikely, but possible. It might also be a bit outside of shoulder width. It might be all the way touching the plates because you might be better for sumo. Really, this is super individualized, and you should really experiment and see what works best for you. But most people, it's going to be about shoulder width apart. Or if you're a sumo puller, it's going to be sort of wherever your knees are. Sort of just under your knees, or maybe an inch outside of that. But once again, comes out to experimentation and seeing what works best for you through trial and error.
The way you set up against the bar is going to be really, really important. You want to get the bar mid-foot, not all the way to a point where your shins are already touching the bar when you're standing over.
Yeah, so when you're doing this, when I first started deadlifting, I still remember a cue that was given to me is you should see your laces over the bar when you look down. So your shins should be about an inch from the bar. I like to have my shins even closer to that than the bar, but once again, that's one of the minute details that changes from person to person. Some people like to have their shins a bit further away, some people like to have it a bit closer. I feel like going a bit closer is going to be a bit more beneficial for most people, but a good rough place to start is mid-foot, just like he said, so you could see your laces over the bar, and it's about an inch or two away.
So now let's talk about the actual setup. The way that you want to get down and reach the bar, I see a lot of people, they get actually a little bit too low. So right here is way too low of a position.
So what he's doing right here is something called squatting the deadlift. It's one of the mistakes he's explaining right now, and it's when people set their hips too low. This is especially common with sumo when people are trying to become more upright, but conventional as well. They try setting their hips way too low, and let me show you essentially what happens. So they're just chilling, about to do their deadlift, and they're looking like this. Their hips are too low. They start lifting, their butt goes up, and then they lift. So pretty much what happens is that your body naturally finds the most efficient way to lift, which is the hips rise before the bar actually goes off the ground. And so instead the way is to just put your hips where they are, like when the bar breaks the ground. A good way to check is by doing a very slow eccentric, and then as soon as the bar touches the ground, where your hips are, that is a good way to see about like where your hips should be starting when you start the deadlift.
Once again, guys, keep in mind my body is kind of built for deadlifts, so I don't have to bend my knees as much to get to the bar.
Exactly. Some people just have very good leverages, long arms, and whatnot for deadlifting. So you trying to mimic his deadlift form exactly is wrong. Instead, just try to follow his general guidelines and see what works best for you. But in general, trying to copy somebody's exact form can be problematic because it's not the most efficient form for you. It's the most efficient form for them. That's why everybody who's really good might be deadlifting slightly differently.
Right? Because I'm not, if you notice, once I come back up, there's no wasted movement.
This is literally the perfect example of this. His starting position mimics, it's exactly the same as the end of the eccentric when the bar touches the ground. So your starting position should look the exact same pretty much as your ending position.
A lot of people, they don't realize that you want to kind of create noodle long arms. It's a weird cue, but you want to make sure you make your arms as long as possible.
So noodle arms is a very common cue, and I'm going to show you a cue for noodle arms that can help you achieve that sort of like lanky noodly arms. So one of the cues is that the arms are like an extension of your body, but let me show you like a physical act that some powerlifters do in their startup. I'm sure you've seen some people actually do this in the elite level before. So some people with their hands are going to go like this. The whole point of that is to make their arms as loosey and goosey as possible before they actually perform the deadlift, in order to make their arms as long as possible, in order to optimize their position and be as efficient as possible during their deadlift.
And then right before you're about to pull, you want to kind of tighten up and almost act like you're trying to bend the bar into your shins.
Yeah, so this is actually a really great cue for engaging the lats. So what he means by this, bending the bar, going like this, but that movement also, like look, arms are here. You're going to like depress the shoulders as much as you possibly can so that your arms are like as low as you can. The attachment per se to your shoulders to the bar is going to be as long, and it's going to pretty much mimic having longer arms, because if your shoulders are retracted right here, then you're going to have to bend down a shit ton. It's just not going to be efficient. You can't lift as much like that.
Sometimes people like to yank. When you yank like that just that's going to create inefficient pull. Your technique's going to fall apart, and that's going to probably lend to some injuries.
So this isn't entirely true. It's going to be true for 99.999% of you, but if you look at some lifters, such as the GOAT John Hack, he literally just rips the bar off the ground. That's not going to work for most of you. And then there's some other lifters who do like a very, very long slack pull, and it's like drawn out. The bar literally comes to a full pause, and then they do like a whole nother lift. It's like they do 2 lifts in one. You can do both ends of the spectrum. Neither is right or wrong. But for most of you, if you're newer to deadlifts especially, I do suggest that you do a slightly slower slack pull to get used to it. But if eventually after some time of training, some years of training or whatnot, you realize that like rip and grip it kind of method is right for you, then it's right for you, because it's right for John Hack and a few other lifters. Doesn't mean it's necessarily wrong. It's just different bodies and whatnot. Anyways, that is the end of the video. I really do hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, comment for the algo, and see you guys next time.